Today we're making a completely lined zip pouch. You can see that you can't see any seams inside, and it's just a really clean finish and a great beginner project. For our materials list today, you'll need 2 9x6" outer fabric panels, 2 lining panels, 4 inches of webbing, 1 keyring, and 1 7.5" closed end zipper. Okay, so these sides are going to be the tops of the zip pouch, where they zip together, and then these sides will be the very bottom of the zip pouch. So what we're going to do first is take our zipper and we're going to put it face down onto one of the panels. And then once you have it pretty centered on there, go ahead and take your pins or clips, whatever you're using. I'll show both ways. So for the pins, we're going to push it through both layers. See there, angle, have it pop back up, and then go ahead and do that all the way down. See here, I have 4 pins in. That should be enough to keep it in place. I have the zipper face down, so the zipper pull is against the outside of the fabric, and this is the side of the fabric you're gonna see when you're using your pouch. Another option you could use instead of pins is binder clips or sewing clips. To use those, you just clip right along the zipper and the other side of the fabric. Make sure that it's all perfectly aligned on this side too, and then you're ready to sew. So what we're gonna do is sew really close to the zipper teeth, these metal pieces here. Luckily these zippers have pretty wide tape, so you shouldn't need to switch to a zipper foot. But if you do, that's good too, totally up to you. So for sewing, I'm gonna make sure that edge is good. Gonna line it up there. One option you can do is to unzip the zipper, so it's kind of out of the way as you sew, or you could leave it zipped up. Leave it zipped up. So go ahead, start at the very edge of the fabric, and just do your couple stitches forward. And then your couple back stitches. And then go ahead and sew all the way through. I take out my pins as I go too. And then go ahead and end with your back stitches. So that's your first side of the zipper. So here's what it looks like from the outside now. You have that nice seam. And we're gonna put the zipper face down onto this seam now, which will be the top of the pouch. So you can see here's the top of the zipper, putting it face down. And then we're gonna pin and sew along this line, just like we did for the last seam. All right, so now we're gonna sew the other side of the zipper. You can see it's face down right now. We're gonna sew it the same way as we did the other side. So go ahead and do your couple front and back stitches. Take out the pins as you go. See, I'm kind of lining up the edge of my presser foot with the edge of the zipper teeth. Is usually pretty good practice for sewing a zipper on. If the zipper pull gets in your way at all when you're sewing, make sure that the needle is down in the fabric. Go ahead and lift your presser foot, and then you can actually unzip it out of the way. And that just usually happens with the zipper pull. It can get a little annoying and bulky. Go ahead to the end, back stitch, and out of there. All right, so now we have the zipper in the outside fabric of the pouch, but we want to add the lining pieces. So we're going to flip this over, and then we're going to sandwich the zipper tape in between the outside fabric and the lining pieces. So for each side, you're going to kind of access just one side of the zipper tape, and then go ahead and line your lining piece up with your outside piece and that zipper tape, make sure that your outside fabric and your lining line up so one's not longer than the other, and then go ahead and pin this together. So we have the zipper tape sandwiched between the lining and the main fabric. So here's what that looks like. The inside of that fabric, which is sewn to this zipper tape, which this is then pinned to. So a lot of the lining pieces are the same on the outside and the inside, but this is the same idea of what you want to see in the final product is what you want to sew face down. So if I wanted this side of the lining that we're looking at to be visible when you open the pouch, you want that sewn against the zipper teeth right here. So face down, and then we're going to sew along that exact same line we already did. So I have my lining pinned into place, and I'm actually going to flip it over and sew from my outside fabric side. And that's because I can see this line that we already have sewn. And we want to make sure that that seam allowance is the distance from your sew line to the edge of the fabric. We want to make sure that it's exactly on that line or even a little bigger so we don't see it in the final product. If you make it shorter, you'll be able to see this line of stitching. And yeah, it just looks better if it's sewn right on top. So start there, 3 stitches forward, back stitch, and you can still feel the zipper teeth as you go too, so that's a nice reference point. So here you can see what's going on with the lining. From the inside, it's that nice clean finish. And then from the outside, also a nice clean finish. So we're gonna go ahead and add the lining to the other side, again by putting it face down against those zipper teeth and sandwiching the zipper tape. So what we're gonna do next is the exact same lining steps to the other side of the zipper tape. Right now it only has that outside piece on it. So we're gonna take the lining and put it face down if it has a face and a back. And then we're gonna go ahead and throw some pins in it, make sure it lines up. And I'll pin from the side I'm actually sewing on this time. Makes a little more sense. We're going to do the exact same thing and just sew along that existing seam line. So I'm actually going to show a mistake I made on sewing. When I went to look at the lining, you can see that it has these little pin tucks. So when you flip it over, you can see that here the fabric got folded into the seam. So what I'm going to do is just seam rip those little areas, and then I'm just going to sew over the whole seam again. It's usually the fastest. So you can see the little areas where the folds got sewn in. And I'm going to trim these threads and then just sew all the way across. Not the cleanest line of stitching, but the nice thing about this project is that you can't see any seams or stitch lines, so it all hides itself in the lining and it's good to go. So when you open it up, the outside should look like this, clean finishes with the zipper, and then the inside should also be these nice clean finishes. Next up, we're going to do a stitch called a top stitch, and a top stitch is a stitch that you can see from the outside of the project. And it's either decorative or utilitarian. This one is both. It makes it so when you're unzipping the pouch, the lining isn't just kind of floating in there. We want it to be secured down and not get in the way of the zipper, as shown here. So to do that, we're gonna top stitch down each side just about a 1/4 inch from the zipper tape. And we want our fabric face up, and then all our seams flipped over to the side we're sewing. So you can see that my two lining pieces in my other outside piece are over here. And on this side, we just have the outside piece plus all the seam allowances for this side. Okay, so with all our other pieces on the left side and the piece we're working on the right hand side, I'm going to stick them under the presser foot. And you want to kind of keep a point of reference when top stitching. So my goal is going to be to keep this edge of the presser foot along this edge of the zipper tape and seam. I'm also going to kind of pull it apart as I go and make sure that the seam allowance is flat on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure it's flat, few stitches forward, few stitches back, and then kind of pull as I go, and that makes sure that you just have a nice clean seam and not any weird folds or bumps. I'm gonna double check. Yep, still smooth. And with my back stitches. So you can see that nice clean top stitch. And it's making the seam allowance stay to that side. And then I'm going to repeat it on the other side. So I've moved my lining pieces to this side that we already top stitched. Now on this side, I'm going to do the same exact thing and do a 1/4 inch top stitch. So next up, we're going to add our piece of webbing in our little key ring. So to start off, I'm going to thread it through, and then I'm going to sew just a little 1/2 inch seam allowance on it, just to make it more manageable as you sew, so the key ring isn't flying all over. Now that we have the key ring a little more contained, we're going to sew it onto the zip pouch. So I'm going to take one of the outside pieces. It doesn't matter which side it is, front or back, because this just gets sandwiched right in the middle. So I'm going to make sure that everything else is out of the way, and then I'm going to place the key ring in this orientation right below the zipper tape. So this raw edge of the webbing is right against this raw edge of the zip pouch. And then I'm just going to sew a tiny bit, about 1/8 of an inch seam, just to keep it locked in place while we sew the zip pouch together. So just right under the zipper tape. I'm going to give it a little overhang, just about 1/8 of an inch, and this just holds it in place. So next up, we're going to assemble the zipper pouch together. We're going to put the outside of the pouch right sides together, and then the inside is also right sides together. And then I'm going to go ahead and unzip the pouch too. This just makes it easier for the turning right side out step. I'm also going to add some pins to make sure that these seams align right here, because you don't want it uneven at the top intersection where you can really see it. So I have my outside and zipper intersections pinned together. Then I also pinned the corners, but I added clips here as a reminder that we're not going to sew this section together just from clip to clip, just a couple inches left open. This will allow us to turn the pouch right side out. So we're going to sew just a little 5/8 inch seam from here, pivot at the corner, all the way across and then end right here. Starting with my little back stitch. And when I get about 5/8 inch from the edge, I'm going to lift this presser foot, rotate my project, and then keep going. Make sure, just by feel, that you're not going to sew over the middle part of the zipper. If you're at all nervous that you're pretty close to the zipper end, you can always just turn the hand wheel on the side of your machine. And that way, if you do accidentally intersect with the zipper, it's not a big deal and you can just move your seam around a little. Looks like this one's clear. Keep going. It's okay too if your edges don't totally line up. Again, this is all just hidden on the inside. Also make sure that your keyring is out of the way just by feel. And just at that right binder clip. So next up, we're going to turn our pouch right side out. Make sure all your pins are out of it. Then you're going to reach in there and pull it through. If it feels like it's a little hard to pull through, you can go back in and make that bottom opening a little larger. Some thicker fabrics are more challenging. Then reach through that little gap and kind of push out the corners. You could use something like a screwdriver or some really dull scissors to push the corners out more too. Push out these top corners. And then we're going to sew up the lining next. So once all 4 of your corners are really pushed out, go ahead and take that lining gap and fold that extra fabric in 5/8 inch so it aligns with the seam allowance we did. And then throw some pins in there. You could use an iron if you want, but this is on the inside of the pouch, so no one's really going to see it. So just make sure that this folded edge lines up, and then we're just going to sew a little 1/8 of an inch seam starting from here, overlapping with the existing seam, going all the way over the opening, and then overlapping the existing seam again. After you've sewn that little seam, make sure that it's sewn through all the layers. There's not any little gaps. Then you're all set. Just go ahead and push that lining in there. Trim any extra threads that might be popping out. And you're all set with your very own lined zip pouch.